my bad. I accidentally clicked the deposit for some reason. And nice. Okay. So, hello, and thank you for listening to Guidance and Recovery. I'm Keegan, and every week I speak with guests to honestly explore recovery, sobriety, the struggles that come with it, and find things that help us in our recovery journeys. Tonight, we are digging deep into the blueprint of who you are actually designed to become based off of your dreams. Caleb Matthews has a lot of experience in the spiritual strategy space, is a dream decoder, founder of the SeeLink, and creator of the SSB Method. For over 20 years, he has helped thousands of people across 4 continents bridge the gap between deep spiritual insight and raw, real world execution. Uh, he has tested and proven a framework that turns life's heaviest frustrations into a roadmap for transformation by using various environments, and he's here to help us decode the patterns in our pain, map our spirit, soul, and body, and claim our true sovereignty. So, Caleb, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Keegan. How you doing today?
I'm glad to hear that. I'm doing pretty well myself. So, before we get started with everything that sounds really interesting, what can I ask you? What hill are you wanting or willing to die on?
What the hell am I willing to die on? Well, that one is definitely a real brain buster, noodle cooker, whatever you put on those things. I would say the hill I'm willing to die on is that every human being has a design. Every
Hmm.
single person has a purpose to which they've been created in this life to be able to fulfill. No matter how great or small, I believe that every person has a unique design for the betterment of this world and one another, and that they've been created for a purpose, for good, and that there are no mistakes.
Huh. Okay. I love that. And it sounds like one of those things where it's like if there's no bad and there's only good, it's just that we're kind of messing up the in between of how to get to the good, right?
Yeah, I would say there's a blueprint. There's a plan that was set out by higher power, spirit, creator, whatever language. Everyone's got their different language for that.
Hmm.
But as human beings and our imperfections, we can often get in the way. And there's a lot to be discussed even within that statement itself. But there is a good plan. And then, unfortunately, in our human imperfections, we can get in the way of our original design.
Okay. So we get in the way of our original design, and then I know for myself, I've gotten in my own way plenty of times, so I'm sure that doesn't help any.
Definitely, we can be our own worst enemies sometimes.
That is for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
And so can you give us a little bit of your background, like what got you into this mindset and how you help people figure out what their blueprint was originally so that they can become more sovereign?
Yeah, I'd love to do that. I was homeschooled. I was very grateful. I am very grateful to have been homeschooled, me and my 2 older brothers, from the
Okay.
age of 6 years old. So grew up in a very much a spiritual family where belief in the spiritual realm, belief in the unseen, belief in a creator, belief in a higher power, belief in that our dreams guide us. In
Hmm.
fact, one of my first memories as a child was a very vivid dream. I can still recall it even today of having this dream experience in that lucid state as a 6 year old and
Hmm.
experiencing things. And like, wow, this is not just what I'm reading about in the Hebraic method, in the stories of Joseph and Daniel and people in history who had these vivid dreams. This is in my life too. And really, those early seeds in the homeschooling years were really, really influential in my growing up and development. But that's where I would start is from a young age. Being homeschooled, being in that creative environment really helped me see that there's more behind the design than just meets the eye.
Mm. Okay. I love that. And you're kind of d- not really dismantling, but giving credence to the fact that like if we're stuck in a certain system that really does create a well non-creative outlook in a sense.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and obviously, I know there's a lot of our audience out there that are listening to this right now, men and women who grew up in the public school system, and by no means am I slamming that whatsoever. But for me
Yeah.
and my brothers and my family, it wasn't cohesive to our creativity and our design. And I think a lot of homeschoolers get a bad rap of saying, oh, well, if you're a homeschooler, you must be like some nerd that doesn't have any social skills and you can't possibly learn anything in a homeschooling environment, but you can. I'm
Mm.
proof that you can. My family's proof that you can. Like I'm 25, 30 years later after, starting homeschooling and well graduated many years from those years. I've traveled
Hmm.
around the world as a communicator and I'm an entrepreneur in several different countries. And so it's proof that there is that gold that can be found in that homeschooling creative environment. For some people, that's what they're supposed to be doing. And for my design, public school system did not work. It was actually limiting my reach and
Hmm.
my creativity. And if I could go back, I would do homeschooling all over again because it's been very influential for my foundations of my own DNA of design.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for helping bust that myth as well. And I mean, creating your foundations in that sense, like dreams are one of those things that I've heard a lot of people got them, some people don't, and some people dream in only black and white. Some people don't experience sensations. It's that wide spectrum, right?
Yeah, wide spectrum. It's like snowflakes, right? No two snowflakes are alike. No two dreamers are alike. Keegan, the way
Huh.
that you dream and the way that I dream are completely going to be unique to our spirit, soul, and body. And that's why I talk about the SSB method, because here's that hill that I'm willing to die on, that question you
Mhm.
asked me at the beginning. It is my strong conviction to every fiber in my being that we are created three parts, not just two parts. In fact, I believe a lot of the problems that we see in our world today is that a lot of culture, especially the Western culture, only believes that we are a body with a soul. And that's
Mhm.
only two-thirds of the equation. We have a
Yeah.
spirit, we have that deeper consciousness that has a
Mhm.
soul, that has a body. And the Eastern culture really, they're ahead of us in this curve. They've really understood that the spirit is supposed to govern the soul and the soul governing the body, and not the other way around. That's my
Mm.
conviction.
Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. And I've had this idea, maybe conviction as well, that we spirit and soul are two different things. For me, soul is more of the entity and spirit is more of the persona of the entity. In a sense, if that makes any kind of sense or semblance. But why don't we explore what the SSB method is and how it helps people divulge their blueprints?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into the exploration, the nitty gritty of that. So SSB, S of course for spirit, S for soul, B for body. So we
Hmm.
have we have our body, we have our physical human construct, and we have our soul, which is our mind, will, and emotions. It's my belief that this is our willpower. This is our belief to choose or not to choose, putting our will into something, our free will. That comes from our soul. But then our spirit, where spirit and soul, in my perspective, are two separate things, is your spirit is your that deep-seated consciousness, that wisdom, that understanding. I'll give an
Mm.
example. Say
Okay.
if I'm walking out in public somewhere and all of a sudden I have this random gut punch thought, like this
Mhm.
inner gut, because it calls there's the brain gut axis in
Mhm.
science where it talks about this, that the heart actually has its own brain mechanism, not just the
Yeah.
brain, but the heart has its own brain. So if I'm walking by somebody and all of a sudden I get this sense that, oh wow, that guy on the public transit, I feel like that person really needs someone to come up to him and just start to talk with him. I just a random thought, right? Not in my brain, but my gut feeling is that person is really going through the ringer. Or oh,
Mhm.
I have this gut feeling, this sixth sense, so to speak, that oh, this place that I'm in right now, this doesn't feel safe. And maybe on the outward appearance, it might look like a sunny day and people are all around happy, but I feel like somebody isn't safe around here or that there's
Mm.
an unsafe environment. Logically, in my mind, how could that be possible? The sun is shining, people are laughing and walking around, and people are doing the normal thing, but there's something that hits me that's deeper than what's actually going on. That's our spirit talking. And when we look at the SSB method, I believe it's crucial that we connect our spirit as the governing entity of our entire trichotomous being, because we can sometimes get it backwards where we think that our mind and our body are the ones steering the ship, but our spirit is put on the shelf, that we can just pick up spirituality whenever we
Hmm.
want. Which leads me into this question, and I wanted to ask you,
Uh-huh.
this question as well.
Okay.
And one of my favorite questions to ask is, Keegan, what does spirituality mean to you?
Ooh, that's a good question. And it's funny because like I actually had this question portrayed or given to me while I was in my recovery center, and I was like, well, it's kind of all over the place, you know. It's more than just sitting there and praying. It's more than just sitting there and having a knowing of sorts, but it's connecting to something higher than myself or what I believe is higher than myself or connecting to my deeper parts of me that I've maybe forgotten. It's also being able to do what I believe is right to my moral codes of sorts. And
Mm,
so it is, oh, and it's an encompassing thing. It's not, like you said, it's not something that I can just, I'm just going to put it down and I'm only going to go do it on Tuesdays. You know, it's like, no, it's something that I go and I reflect, I learn, and it's something that I bring to my daily life. It's a skill of
mm,
sorts. But at the same time, it's one of those skills that is probably like riding a bike. Like once you learn it, you can't really unknow it.
yeah.
So that would probably be my best interpretation of spirituality at the moment.
Yeah, and that's great. That's thank you for sharing that. By the way, it's one
Hmm.
of my favorite questions I love asking people over the years. Whenever I've led dream interpretation teams in places like Salem, Massachusetts, at Haunted Happenings, Stonehenge, Costa Rica, different dream seminars and workshops and places, because based on your answer, if you're coming up to me and sharing a dream that you had at a seminar or at a workshop, or hey, Caleb had this dream, I always begin, me and my team always begin with that question: what does spirituality mean to you? Because it's going to dictate what language I use to answer and to speak to the interpretation of what dream you had, because I want to use language that's cohesive to what you are familiar with and what your spirituality of choice is. I don't want to
Mm.
use language that's going to put you off. I don't
Uh-huh.
want to use something that's going to trigger, because I want to be sensitive that every person has their own experience, they have their own lens of spirituality, but at the same time, I have my lens of spirituality. So it's that fine
Mm.
dance of I have my interpretation, but you have yours. But I want to be able to speak in such a way where I am speaking the language that you are familiar with. But that's why I
Mm.
asked that.
Okay. Yeah. It's a lot like a doctor being able to put to layman's terms essentially of like what's going on inside the body whenever it's sick. And
Yeah,
someone's like, I don't understand. So
sure. Absolutely.
so I mean, with that being said, like what is your lens of spirituality?
My lens of spirituality, we go back into the DNA of design, which is one of the things that we're talking about here, SSB method. I believe that each one of us have been created in the image of Creator God, with a life force, a breath, a spirit. You have a spirit that has a soul, that has a body. So I believe in my gate, my higher power, is the mystic secret of God. That's my higher power. That's my gate, and how I connect with that gate, that Hebraic method, is my lens, is my gate, is my medium for everything that I do life with. And how I relate to that is how I relate to every person that is in front of me, because I believe that Creator, that God, that Spirit is light. And when we share that light, then we're able to lift one another up into the purpose to which we've been created. So that's my definition of spirituality. I believe in a higher power, I believe in God, but I also respect those who may believe in energy or may believe in polytheism or believe in, you fill in the blanks, right? But I
Mhm.
want to make sure that I'm communicating that as well too. Does that answer your question?
It does. It does.
Yeah.
So that covers the first S. So what's the second S?
Soul. So the soul is the mind, the will, the emotions. It's our choice, right? Like it makes me think of lately one great book that I highly recommend that anybody reads. Keegan, maybe you've read it or not. It's written by a man called Viktor Frankl, and it's called Man's Search for Meaning. And it was written by a survivor of the Holocaust who
Mm-hmm.
went through the concentration camps, and he talked about finding meaning in the most traumatic experiences. And
Mm-hmm.
one thing that Frankl talked about was the power of free will. No matter what happens around us, no matter what darkness that there is, or hardship, or obstacles, one thing cannot be taken from me, from you, from our audience, and that is free will. How we
Mm-hmm.
choose. So our soul, our mind, will, and emotions, that's our willpower, what we're choosing. Are we choosing to follow this way or that way? Are we choosing to
Mm-hmm.
follow our full design, or are we choosing something that's less than? So our souls, our mind, will, and our emotions. That is the second S.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that ties into the body because of what we're choosing to do with everything, right? Because the body follows where the spirit and soul go, right?
That's right. Yeah. So if I decide, hey, I'm going to choose to go to the gym and work out, or I'm going to choose to eat this or eat that, or I'm going to choose to look at that and not look at that, the body will follow the soul and the soul will follow the spirit. So here's the order in my perspective: spirit, soul, body. Our spirit is supposed to govern our soul is supposed to govern our body. And when those three are aligned, then there's that full economy of motion. It's the analogy I like to think of and present here is the three-legged stool.
Mm-hmm.
Keegan, what happens if one of those three legs, the SS or the B, what happens if we take spirit, soul, or body out of the three-legged stool?
Well, it would be unbalanced and it would tip over.
Exactly. So if we take out one of those elements, if one of those elements is off, if my body's good, my spirit's good, but I'm not exercising my willpower and my own freedom of choice, then my construct and my structure is going to be imbalanced. And my body's not responding, but my spirit and my soul are on board, then I'm imbalanced. If my soul and body are all there, but my spirit is not awake, I'm also imbalanced. I believe
Mm-hmm.
this is one of the great wrestling matches and one of the great struggles of human existence is aligning with all three.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the hard part, because kind of like what you were saying originally with your homeschooling, that was essentially allowing you to have free reign or that free range, if you will, of well, all three of those, because you didn't have a whole bunch of people sitting there giving you expectations or opinions that you had to live up to. And you were able to also explore what felt truer to you.
Yes, absolutely. And that exploration is awakening the early years of entrepreneurship. So this is one of the four pillars of the SeeLink. It's called the I of I principle. So
Okay.
early years of entrepreneurship, of innovation. What do I mean by that? Well, each one of us, we've been raised with a specific set of skills and talents. Keegan, the way that you were raised is completely different than me. Susie that's listening to this, or Bobby, or I'm just making up these characters, but whoever's listening to this, that the way that they're been raised with their gifts and talents is different than us. Maybe
Hmm.
Bobby is a pianist and a musician. Maybe Susie is a dancer.
Hmm.
For me and myself, I'm somebody who loves to communicate. Like my nickname when my brothers called me growing up was TTM, talk too much, because I just love to talk, love to speak. Like one of my first main childhood memories was sitting on the front lawn with the neighbor's dog, Black Labrador called Ace, and reading a children's book. He was a captive audience. No judgment, just a black lab sitting there, just hung out, just like panting in the summer heat, and then
Hmm.
listening to me share a children's book story with him. And because I practiced with a neighbor's dog for many years, because I practiced with my own stuffed animals, 120 of them, stuffed animal collection I still have in my crawl space today, Here we are. It took me to Africa. It took me around the world. But long before I spoke in front of people, I practiced in front of stuffed animals and then they were a dog. So those were
Mhm.
my early years was communication, and I honed that and worked with that. And so our audience listening, I actually want to speak to every listener right now that maybe you're like, okay, where do I start, Caleb? Well, look back to your early years of what are those gifts and those talents that maybe the world told you that, oh, that's silly, that's that's not something that you should cultivate, and you listened and you put it on the shelf. Or maybe you have been trying things out and you don't know what's going to stick. Well, look back to those early years, those formative years, and you'll start to find clues. Start to find clues.
Hmm. Okay. Thank you for that, because I know a lot of people do discard or put away those kind of ideals, those things about themselves that they want to do or pursue, and then are told, like you said, it's not worth it. You're never going to go anywhere with that, and so on and so forth. How you're not going to make money, or like no one wants to listen to that, so on and so forth. And it sucks, and that drives a lot of people into a black hole of sorts. And I mean, I know that I've been there, done that, and it's not something I would recommend by far. So, whenever you're talking about this, is that where dreams kind of show the way back to that stuff?
Yeah, exactly. Because our spirit is instructing us while our soul and body are asleep.
Mm,
Our spirit is awake and most active when our mind and body are in a restful state. It's very hard to hear from our human spirit when our busy mind and busy body, busy body, there's a pun, but we're being busybodies and busy minds, and the
mm,
chaos and the clutter of our day of, oh, from A to B and from calendar this and calendar that. It's very hard to get into that place of rest. But when we are in that place of rest, the night season, then we can start to connect with that space, that thin space. And ultimately, that's when the answers start to come. It
mm,
says, in the ancient book of Job that that our sleep has sealed instruction in the night season. That the Creator seals instruction while we're sleeping, and it's a very fascinating season, the night season. One of my favorite seasons, more than the four seasons actually, more than fall, more than summer, more than spring, more than autumn, summer. The night season is a wonderful season.
I'd have to agree with that. I am very much a night owl myself. And so whenever people are sleeping, they're getting instructions. And so you also mentioned the first pillar of the SeeLink. So what are the other three pillars of that, real quick?
Yeah, so history speaks is another pillar, that
Okay.
our history, our personal history, is always speaking. And the history of our ancestors. Like we just
Hmm.
had a very important anniversary that sadly a lot of the world doesn't remember anymore, but I always like to remember this, which is June 6th. June 6th is the anniversary of D-Day, is the anniversary of 82 years ago when Allied troops landed on the beaches of Normandy. And because of their sacrifice, Keegan, you and I and our audience have the freedom to be able to speak on the airwaves and to be able to
Mm.
communicate in this way. If it wasn't for their sacrifice, we could be under Nazi Germany right now. And the world that we live in today would look quite different. So history speaks because of the blood that was shed, and because of the sacrifice of our forefathers, our ancestors, the men and women who fought and gave their lives so that we could be free. That's part of it. So I like to, history speaks is diving into the history, not just our own history, but the history of the generations that came before us.
Okay.
Another one of the pillars is, of course, the SSB method, what we're talking about, spirit, soul, and body. And then another pillar is understanding mysteries of the night season. And then, of course,
Hmm.
the eye of eye principle, which we talked about before. So those are the four pillars.
Gotcha. Okay. So, I mean, so sleep is a big deal, and dreams are, of course, one of those things that, again, people have a spectrum of it, and some people don't seem to dream. So, what do you have to say to those people that seem to not be able to recall those dreams if they're trying to get those instructions, but they just don't show up?
My first question I would ask them because this is something that's been very, very common in the years of traveling and speaking in different places about dreams and talking to people of all different cultures and kinds. And I would say this, my first question is, does this person, do you keep a dream journal next to your bed? And Keegan, you'd be shocked of how many people say, "Oh, well, I don't keep really a journal. Like it's not that important," or "Oh, I'll just remember it when I wake up." Well, like if we don't keep a journal next to our bed, it's actually that brain recall of just knowing there's a journal next to our bed is actually helping us remember those dreams a higher percentage of times versus not having it and just saying, "Oh, I'll get to it when I can." Well, most of the time it's too late because when we wake up and we walk the dog or pour the coffee or pay the bills, those dreams are gone. So the first question I would ask is, do you keep a dream journal?
Hmm. Okay. Interesting. And I mean, that would be one of those things where it's like, well, who's kind of in charge on that one? That's kind of like the body reminding the spirit and or soul to like, hey, instructions, need to write these down. Keep them in mind for a little bit after waking up, right?
Yeah, exactly. We can do our part too, right? It's not just up to, it's not up to the dream to make sure or the source behind the dream to say, oh, well, they'll get it. If they don't have a journal, I'm sure they'll get it. Well, we have to do our part. We have to collaborate with our human spirit, and our spirit needs to collaborate with the spirit so we can actually start to treasure and write these things down. There's a ancient text that says, "Write what you see," talking about a vision, "write what you see on a scroll so that he or she who reads it may run."
Hmm.
Well, what that means is when you write down what you see and then you're able to come back to it for future reference, this vision and this revelation, dream, is going to allow us to be able to run in life. And that's what dreams are. They're not just a random space, they're very instructive. Like Harriet Tubman, George Washington, Mendeleev, Einstein, like different men and women throughout history had
Hmm.
vivid dreams that were able to guide them in their destiny. So no different for you and I. We're flesh and blood just like those people were.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so on that note, like a lot of people, like I kind of want to ask something the more akin to the audience because a lot of people in recovery or especially early recovery have using dreams. And so some of them wake up and they're terrified because it just feels so real that they're like, oh crap, did I get high again? Did I get drunk again? And then they're
Right.
worried for the rest of the day. They may send themselves into a panic attack. So, what do you say about those kind of dreams whenever they pop up for someone that is trying to actively better their life?
Yeah. Have you heard of the phrase Keegan, the coin theory before?
Uh, Probably, but I don't know if I've heard it in the term coin theory.
So with dreams, a lot of dreams, especially the ones that you just mentioned, is for people coming through recovery, coming out of recovery, or dark dreams, do have two sides to them, and I can
Mm,
think of many different examples in the different holistic fairs and new age fairs and spiritual conventions that I've been to, where people will
mm,
share this wacky dream and they'll say, wow, this just seems like something from my recovery or something from like my past trauma. And while all those things could may be true, may be relevant, there are many different layers to dreams. So
mm,
depending on the context, I would say, okay, well, take what you're seeing. Say it's a dream where somebody is chasing you down, right? And you feel like
mm,
you're being pressed down to the ground or held down, or you're just like discombobulated in the dream. Well, I would say to that person, okay, what is the opposite? Let's
mm,
flip it. What's the opposite of what's happening? What's the positive? If you could say someone's trying to put their hand over your mouth and like, I'm just using a dream example I've heard it many times,
mm,
put their hand over your mouth and like stop you from speaking. Opposite of that would be you speaking, you
mm,
declaring, you using your voice. So with those dreams, I would often flip them when somebody's sharing them with me and interpret the exact opposite, like a whole 360-degree spectrum. Because in our human construct, in our minds, a lot of the times we think, oh, wow, it's literal. Is that literally going to happen to me? When in reality, a lot of the dreams, most of the dreams that we have are allegories and metaphors. They are, more or less parabolic in language, not meant to be taken literally.
Yeah. Okay. And so that's kind of one of your specialties is trying to figure out the symbology of the dreams that things happening, and you say, well, this could represent this. So it's kind of like one of those dream interpretation Bible or dictionaries, I guess. Right?
Yeah, and also within the context of the dreamer that's in front of me, the feeling that I have, the somebody dreaming about their golden retriever could be different for you than it is me. Maybe for you, a golden retriever was a loyal companion that meant a lot to you. For me, it could be not something that is as relevant for me. Maybe it was a dog that attacked my neighbor's cat, and I have bad memories of a golden retriever, right? Like, not saying that's what a golden retriever is, but you know what I mean, like
Yeah,
in
yeah.
dreams, right? Everybody has specifics within what they're dreaming about that is personal to them. And so context, of course, is important, but within that context and within the going back to my spirit again, going back to my connection with my higher power and God of, okay, how can I breathe and just touch on this point of being able to provide value and interpretation for that. So it's unique to the individual. Like I more or less shy away from specific dream guides or dream Bibles or anything like that. And more or less, yes, there's experience of doing dream interpretation. Like I've been doing this for like many decades. But I would say that it has a lot to do with what's happening in the moment with that specific individual versus just a set chart of this means that, this means that, this means that. Because something you share with me is going to be specific to Keegan, and nobody else is going to have that specific meaning behind a dream that you would share versus somebody else.
Yeah. Okay. That's really interesting. And I mean, it makes a lot of sense too, because it's kind of like everyone has their own lens on life. And that saying, like, if you get 20 artists and you give them the same scene to paint or recreate, then no two are going to look the same. And you might even get a optional, like, or a secret 20-second. Like, two people were like, oh, I actually want to do it two different ways, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like, example I can think of several years ago, I was at one of the holistic fairs, and a gentleman came in and he shared a dream. It was very, very weird to him, but he was upside down on kind of one of those like bungee jumper things. His ankles were tied from the roof of his childhood house, and he was upside down, and the blood was all rushing to his head or whatever, and he was just like had no clothes on. He was like completely naked or whatever, and he felt like completely exposed. But he felt like it was the right thing at the right time, and that it was just the timing was right for him to be upside down with no clothes. And even though people were watching, he felt like it was the right time. And then he woke up. Like for a lot of people, they think, okay, the right time to be hanging upside down with a bungee cord around your ankles naked, like what's that? No, and by no means in my natural mind is that the right time, but for him it was. And here's what the dream was saying to him: that he was going through a time when his whole world was turned upside down. And he felt like he had lost control. But by opening himself up to vulnerability and allowing his spirit to step forward and his body and his soul to come into subjugation of his spirit, that was the healing process he had to go through, even in the eyes of his peers and other people. And so we shared that with him, myself and the team. He was crying. He was crying and bawling. And you're like, what does this mean to you? Well, he said to us that we had no knowledge of this prior. He said that a few months ago that he lost a parent. Parent had passed away. And he felt like his whole world was turned upside down.
Yeah.
And he felt the shame coming back. He felt shame of, oh, well, maybe I didn't do enough, or maybe I wasn't close enough to them and I should have done more. But the fact that he was upside down and allowing his body and his soul to step underneath his spirit and allow his spirit to govern and to
Mm-hmm.
let go of control was what he needed to do. So he,
Yeah.
he had confirmation there that that
Mm-hmm.
was the right timing.
Okay, that's awesome. And I actually had one of those not too long ago myself, and it was very similar. Getting on this like roller coaster ride of some sorts, and then next thing I know, I'm just strapped, like I'm just being holding on by my ankle and upside down over a city. And it was that whenever I woke up, it was that same message, like my world's been flipped upside down, and I just gotta like kind of go with the flow. My higher powers got me going where I need to go, and this is happening for a reason kind of thing. But it's also not so much that I needed to understand the reason. It was that trust, it was being able to let go. And the thing that came to my mind was in the tarot, the Hanged Man, because his perspective is flipped. He's upside down, and he's actually smiling and enjoying it. uh, but that's kind of the thing, is that it's one of those things that it's weird that dreams speak in symbols and metaphors and things like that. So one of my questions is like, what is one of the things that you've seen like in the most recent like months or years? Because I mean, I would imagine a lot of people's subconscious or spirit are getting different messages, but almost kind of the same at the same time. And so some people may be lining up more than not having the exact same, but kind of getting an overall message, maybe.
So you mean like your question would be, do you see, is there something I'm observing within dream language or dreams people are having that is similar, it's across the spectrum? Is that what you're asking?
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
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 Yeah. I would say the common theme that I'm seeing right now within dreams is this, how shall I say this dreaming of constructs that are at war with one another
Mm,
within the dream language. And what I mean by that is systems. And I think the theme I am seeing in my own dreams and the dreams my family dreams around me as well too, and those is these different constructs at war. And it goes back into the battle between the trichotomous being and the dichotomous being, so spirit, soul, and body versus soul and body. There's these institutions that I'm seeing in my dreams right now. There's this clash, so to speak, of institutions, because institutions like to have control versus
mm-hmm.
individual sovereignty,
Mm-hmm.
being able to rise above those institutions, those religious constructs, and to be able to walk in one's own unique purpose. That's what I'm seeing within a lot of the themes of the languages is this
Mm-hmm.
choice of, it's like those comics that you see where you see like two tables, if you know what I mean, like two tables, and you got one long line going to the table where it talks about
Yeah.
comfortable lies, and then
Uh-huh.
you have
Yep.
one long, and then you have short line going to unpleasant truths.
Mm-hmm.
That's really more or less the theme that I'm seeing
Mm.
is that within dream language of the night season, but also that playing out into our day by day world is
Mm-hmm.
our people. Lots of people are lining up for the comfortable lies, but it costs something to line
Mm.
up for the unpleasant truths.
Okay, so I love that. And I got a question on that regard. Like, whenever we're essentially selling our souls, if you will, to certain things like Facebook or being online all the time or one thing or another, do you think that dreams are also one of those ways that spirit is calling back out, saying like, hey, reconnect, like you need to do something, not necessarily not necessarily saying you're doing things wrong, you just need to maybe do something different, like change course a little bit.
Yes, because technology is a good thing, Keegan. It's a good
Mhm.
thing because you and I are connecting on it right now. We're connecting to
Yeah.
our audience. Technology is a tool, but I want to
Mhm.
emphasize we should not be the tool of the tool. We shouldn't be led
Ooh,
around by the tool. So if the
yeah.
tool is guiding your life, if the tool is guiding my life, if the first thing we think of rather than connecting with our spirit is we have to reach for the technology, like one is reaching for the addiction, right? Like it
Mhm.
can become an addiction.
Oh,
And
yeah.
our dream life is that life that pure organic essence of our spirit that's calling back to us, saying it's time to connect. Like Keegan, you bring up to me, we're talking about dreams and relevant dreams. My mother had a dream a couple of years ago, very vivid, powerful dream about our generation, and that is she saw a young boy in the dream, I think, and he was holding his tummy, he was holding his gut, and he was groaning, and she was leaning forward saying, "What's happening?" And he was groaning, and like he was just holding his gut, and his guts were hurting, and it was because of a connection that he had within. My mom knew it within the dream to social media, like the connection that this young lad had to social media was literally aching to the point where it was hurting his guts. It was hurting the guts of who he was because of this connection that he couldn't break with social media. And I like to think that that's a message for all of us. It's like, yes, use social media. Yes, use it for a good tool, but we can't become its tool. And dreams are calling to us. Our dreams can't really flourish in the night season, and we're not going to have a dream life if the static of electricity, like I have in my bedroom, I have like those plugins in the wall where it actually gets rid of dirty electricity. I'm not sure if you do as well too, but I have those to purify the air because it's proven scientifically that, if you've got dirty electricity around you, that can disrupt REM sleep and deep sleep. So all that to say is that I say yes to what you said before there, Keegan. Our dreams are calling to us, and our social media probably should take a lot of a back seat to us focusing on our dream season, our dream life.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
And thank you
Yeah.
for highlighting that because a lot of people, I know for like myself or someone that grew up and felt like the night season was the only time they could unmask and be themselves. It's really easy to get caught up in that technology nowadays late at night, and that can screw up the sleep cycles and so on and so forth. Um, oh man, I had a question. It'll come back, but it had to do something with sleeping. So talking about sleeping and stuff. Is there really? Well, I don't know if you know this for sure or not, but there's that myth or whatnot that is saying if you eat spicy foods, you're going to have really crazy dreams beforehand.
I mean, there are certain foods that can do that for sure. Like I remember looking back on some years where like have okay gosh like oh my like what's going on there, like the pizza dream, right? Or oh like this I had a little bit of wine before I went to bed, and it affected some dreams that I had. Or oh, back when I was a teenager, you drink the Slurpees, right? Like I used to drink Slurpees lots. So it's, oh, it messes with your chemicals. The Slurpees messes with your dreams. There is an element of truth to that. I
Mm,
wouldn't say that every time you eat spicy food before we go to bed, I'm going to have a crazy dream. But sometimes it can happen. It can
mm-hmm,
happen with certain foods or drinks that we put in, and it's important that we come back to learning and leaning into the fact that dreams come from different sources. They don't just come
mm-hmm,
from one source. They come from many different sources. They can come from ourselves. Like, say if I go to the thinking all day about winning a lottery. I'm
mm-hmm,
winning the lottery. I'm going to win the lottery. I'm going to win the Lotto 649. And then what happens
uh-huh,
that night? I have a dream and I dream of winning the Lotto 649. Well, is that from God or from spirit or from, just like my spirit speaking to me? Probably not. It's probably
mm-hmm,
my soul that wants to win the lottery. So that would be something of my own taking versus something else that comes out of left field, right?
mm-hmm. Okay. Real quick, I just noticed the time that we got going, and so before we get too far, where can people find you if they're looking to get some of your help with their dream work or more of the SeeLink?
Yeah, you can definitely find me. There's a few sources. First of all, my YouTube page, so
Okay.
www.youtube.com/at the SeeLink. I
Okay.
have weekly teaching on there on the four pillars, as well as really focusing right now a lot on history speaks and finding our DNA of design type within different people in history, different stories.
Mm-hmm.
So www.youtube.com/@the SeeLink. And then, of course, my main website, calebmatthews.net. On there, and I want to just emphasize this, there is
Okay.
a free DNA of design quiz. So there are 7
Huh.
design types. There's the activator, the catalyst, the steward, the builder, the healer, the seer, the navigator. There's 7 different design types, and the quiz only takes 5 minutes. It's free.
Okay.
And once you take the quiz, you can shoot me an email, shoot me a message, say, "Hey, Caleb, this is what I got, and what do you think?" And then I can guide you from there. If you're like, you know what, I really want to do a one-on-one session with you. I love this free content, but I want to book a session with you. You can also book a session with me through the website. They're called the Link Up sessions, where there's paid sessions for that. But there's a lot of free content within YouTube, and of course within the DNA of Design quiz. So I definitely recommend that people check out calebmatthews.net. And of course, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Right now, everything on the YouTube channel is complimentary. There's no cost, but in the future, I'm going to have a developed advanced course for DNA of Design and understanding mysteries of the night season that you can hook up to. So check it out.
Oh, awesome. That sounds really great, Caleb. Thank you for sharing that with the me and the audience. And I gotta say, like, dream work is one of those cool things too, because dreams don't just inform us, but kind of like what you were saying, if we're trying to do something different in our day-to-day life, we can actually we can influence our dreams that will then therefore kind of influence our subconscious probably, or our body more or less. How do you feel about that? Or like lucid dreaming, for example?
Yeah, for sure. Like one of the first things that I was taught, my mother raised me in I know my brother is, of course, homeschooling. My mother
Hmm.
homeschooled all of us, but in a healthy culture of treasuring our dreams, writing them down, and questioning, what does this mean? What does that mean? And one of the things that she taught us to do, especially if we have nightmares, because everyone has nightmares, those lucid nightmares where you feel like you're wrestling something or something's trying to attack you, is you can change the dream. You can say, no, this is my space. This is sovereignly my property,
Hmm.
and you are not allowed to trespass on my property. So you make a stand and you push back. And when you do that, when we do that, it not only has an effect within our dream, but also subconsciously, and that will manifest into the physical. And I found that over the years, when I started resisting attacks in my dreams, it gave me confidence. It gave my subconscious confidence. It gave me confidence in my day by day waking hours to say, all right, well, if I can do that in my dreams, then I can have sovereignty with my spirit over my soul and body in my day to day actions, so that I can filter what I allow in my space and what I don't allow in my space. So I agree. Dreams do have that effect, and they can manifest into our subconscious and ultimately into our conscious waking hours.
Mm, okay. And I mean, with that same technique, I guess someone that's going through those night terrors of using or drinking again in early recovery can sit there and utilize that. I'm going to say no. And,
Yes.
s- uh, but here's the tricky thing, right? Like, how do you suggest people get to that lucid state? Because most people, from my understanding, sit there and say that dreaming is like watching a movie, they can't do anything about it.
Yeah. So if there's those lucid, there's those places where you're, yeah, in a nightmare, then one thing I recommend, if you feel like things are getting out of control, is, and this is going to look different to everybody, but this is just the way that I do it. So I'm gonna give a practical example of how Caleb Matthews does it, how Caleb
Okay.
Matthews did it in his childhood, how Caleb Matthews did it in his teen years, and as an adult life. So say I've had a couple of nights in a row of night terrors or these things happening. Before I go to sleep, I would turn my heart, my posture, my heart towards Creator, towards God, and say, God, I need your wisdom. I need your wisdom, and I need you to guide my spirit
Mm,
through my dream night season, so that when I'm in these nightmares, or I'm in these moments, these lucid moments where something's about to happen, I don't want to feel like a bystander, but with your permission, I want to feel like a collaborator where I can complete the work that I need to complete. So it's really about house cleaning and housekeeping before you go to sleep. So oftentimes I will say, God, I want you to close whatever gate is supposed to be closed, And I want you to open whatever gate is supposed to be open. And what happens in this season, in this night season, in these hours of sleep I'm going to sleep, I yield my spirit to the Creator. Now, that looks different for me because my higher power is different than a lot of you listening right now, but it's to be consciously active and aware that you're not just a bystander or a victim or someone has to accept these things happening to you. Your spirit is part of your construct, and it's your right to be able to exercise authority, dominion, and freedom of choice. And that comes from allowing your spirit to come forward and say, I am going to take this ground. And so that comes from connecting with your higher power. Do that. And I promise you, and I guarantee you that when you start to do that in the coming days and you ask for the spirit of truth and for clarity to and just envelop your dreams and guide you, things are going to just absolutely accelerate for you in your dream life and in your natural life. That's going to give you breakthroughs that you've never seen before.
Ooh, okay. Thank you for sharing that, because I know a lot of people are going to try and take that to heart and do what they can with it, because it's one of those things where why would you fear going to sleep if that's one of the few places that you can find solace? So it's I know a lot of people do find that their safety is in sleep because the waking world is just so scary or mean to them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope others can sit there and take that to heart so that they can utilize some really actionable insights, because this has been a just fantastic interview. And I mean, it's really interesting to have someone do this kind of work and be able to say that what you're dreaming is valid, and it's not just some kind of weird thing. It's not just some story that's made up. It's something that is trying to instruct you, and you're trying to also make something out of it, because a lot of us, again, we got told our dreams didn't mean anything, what we wanted to do with our lives wasn't worth it, so on and so forth. And so dreams, I think a lot of people accidentally kill before
Yeah.
they're given the chance.
Yeah, that's true. Can sometimes throw the baby out with the bathwater many times, sadly enough. And we have the choice to be able to turn course and navigate within the DNA of our design and say, I'm a dreamer. In fact, audience, if there's anything that you remember today from my conversation with Keegan, from my part, it should be this. Before you go to sleep, you should declare out loud, look in the mirror and declare out loud and say, I am a dreamer, because you are. You dream. A third of your life is spent dreaming scientifically. So that by the time you reach 60 years of age, you spent 20 of those years dreaming. That's a big chunk of your life. So you are a dreamer. You also are a dreamer because you are ultimately the manifestation, creativity of creation. You've been created, brought to this earth for a purpose. So actually, you are the manifestation of the dream of the Great Spirit, of the Spirit of Truth, because you are here for a purpose. There's nothing that happens by mistake. You are here for a purpose. You have a DNA of design. And part of that is your dreams. So declare out loud, look in the mirror, or when you close your eyes, say, I am a dreamer. I'm meant to dream. And every door that's supposed to be open, may it be opened. Every door that's supposed to be closed, may it be closed. And do that homework. Do that housekeeping. And when you do that, you're going to see your dreams shift in a whole different way.
Ooh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us, Caleb, and everyone else out there. I hope y'all take that to heart and do practice and do some homework. I know it's not a fun word, but good things happen. So, with that being said, we have come to the end of this episode, unfortunately. But Caleb, again, it has been an absolute honor and a pleasure having you on, and I just can't wait to hopefully speak to you in the future so that we can see, like, if anyone has any dreams that they'd like to have interpreted or something like that, because like you said, everyone's dream is different. Everyone is context is important. So if you drop a comment with your dreams, give a little bit of context. Speaking of that, is there context that helps you interpret some things?
So context would be, I would ask questions like, are there colors in the dream? Are there people that you recognize? People, animals? location. So a lot of different perspectives, multiple perspective advantage. So there are supporting cast characters that will determine and dictate the direction of the dream. And of course, just touching on this lightly, here at the end, but I would say feeling as well too. If someone feels excited or afraid or intrigued, that definitely guides it as well. But I definitely would be totally on board for that. Like, I'd love to be able to offer some interpretation to your audience as well, leaving in the comments as well, and then even doing like a part 2 if that's something you're open to as well, where we focus more on dream interpretations for people submitting dreams in live time and action. Of course, you could bring one of yours as well, but Keegan, this has been absolutely wonderful. It's been an honor to be on your show, and I'm really glad that we were able to have this conversation. But yeah, please feel free to keep in touch, and your audience as well would love to be able to dive into some of the dreams of your audience and your network.
For sure. And thank you again, Caleb. And I do look forward to staying in touch and getting to pick your brain because I have a lot of really weird dreams and they're very vivid. So, with that being said, everyone else out there, thank you for listening to Guidance and Recovery on WDJY 99.1 FM. And as always, try to love yourself, love others if you can, but you got to try to love yourself first. And if try to be your favorite self today. And if you're having a mental health crisis, you can dial 988 or text 741-741. And if you're in the LGBTQ plus community, you can dial the Trevor Project up in Canada. And we will see y'all next time. So until then, start a dream journal if you haven't already. Tell yourself you're a dreamer in the mirror before you go to bed. And we'll see y'all next time. Much love. Blah.